If I do this too many times, Instagram gonna hate me. It's okay. This is my third try. Take 3. Hi, hello, my little signature wave. It is the first of the year, and I'm back again with another BB Reads. BB Reads is where I go and I grab books from my library grab and goes, or any other way that reads find me, and I talk about them, as reads can be so insightful and fun and all of the things. I just kind of like talk through them. And I am Ika, E-I-K-A. Any derivatives of that, if you black, baby, love, boo, sugar, honey, poo, iced tea, whatever you want to call me. If not black, Ika is fine. Ika is fun. And yeah, just get into it with me. Let me see. It's been a minute, so I have to figure out how to do these. Oh, BB Reads, I will probably still record them on IG Live, but they now exist on YouTube. For as long as YouTube will exist, they will exist on YouTube. From now on, I like that they can reach a wider platform. Which reminds me, if you are someone who is interested in sharing your thoughts around the books that you read, or anything that you read, even if it's a stop sign, and you want to talk about that stop sign, the history of the stop sign, or something that you read on a billboard or whatever, please, excuse me, reach out to me. You can reach out to me. I'll put my email and stuff in the description box. I can say that now. I will put all of that stuff there so that you can reach out to me and we can figure out like methods and means and ways that you maybe want to share those thoughts. Because I love reading, and I also love to hear about the things that people read and what they take from what they read, no matter what they read. And there's a lot to read out there. So yeah, BB Reads will exist solely on YouTube, but you can always catch me doing them on BB Honey. I don't know what I'm gonna do with this page just yet. Things are shifting, and it's 2023 now, so it's like I'm sure that they will continue to shift. This has already shifted so much, so yeah, let's just get into it. So again, BB Reads, where I go wherever I can find a good read and I grab them. This time I think I did another, like, I just went to the library and I was like, what's calling to me type thing. For the first book I'll talk about. For the second book, I'm like, I'll get into how the second book came about for me once I started. But I'll start the first one. I'll just hop in. Slip. Slip is a graphic novel. I think it's a teen. Yes, it's a teen graphic novel. Let me see if I can focus that a little bit better. Teen graphic novel that I just picked up randomly. I actually think I picked it up randomly, and then I read the insert, which I'll read the insert in a minute. But Slip by Marika, McCoola and Aatmaja, Pandya. I'll write the names, the title and the authors and illustrators in the description box as well. So Slip by Marika, McCoola, Aatmaja, Pandya. Okay. So this book, let me just read it. So how do you move on when you're not ready to let go? Just as Jade is about to leave for a summer art program, her best friend, Phoebe, attempts suicide. How is Jade supposed to focus on her ceramics when Phoebe is in so much pain? At the art farm, Jade is this person right here that is on the cover very conveniently. Jade is thrust into a whirlwind of creation, critiques, and the fervor of her fellow artists. As she gets to know her classmates, she begins to fall for upbeat, whimsical Mary. The art farm is competitive. Jade's teachers are exacting. Overwhelmed, Jade pours herself and her emotions that has stemmed from her best friend Phoebe attempting suicide into making clay creatures. When she fires them in the kiln, something unreal happens. They come to life, running wild and wreaking havoc. If Jade won't confront her problems are going to confront her, including the scariest of them all, If Jade finds a way to grow, thrive, and even fall in love this summer, is she leaving Phoebe behind? Be her best friend. So, yeah, I think I read that insert, and it was kind of funny because I was reading some other inserts, and I was like, oh, these are too dark. These are too much for me to handle, and they were like pretty heavy stories. And so the fact that I still ended up taking this home, it was in combination with some other graphic novels that I got, but I ended up taking those back because they got renewed too many times. And I was gonna rack up some overdue fees if I didn't return those, but somehow this one ended up staying. So I was like, I'll talk about it because it was like one of the ones that I really liked out of all of the other ones that I grabbed. But yeah, this one was pretty dark in and of itself too. Let me show some of the illustrations. I don't think they were all. Wow, I didn't remember that they were all kind of like this bluish gray tone. This is why I was worried about this light. And then when Jade's creation comes to life, we get a little bit of red. Or when she's kind of confronting some volatile emotions, we'll see some red in here too. But I had totally forgot that this wasn't all like, super colored. But yeah, I guess I really don't have to go through the plot of the book because I read the insert first. But what I will say about this book was, I don't know, stories like this kind of get to me in a way. I'm kind of jumping the gun here, but I also don't know if I will do BB reads about this, so I think it's okay to talk about it. I am reading a book now that is about expressive arts therapy, and just really, one of the things that I'm taking out, just because I'm about to get into the book if I start going down that route, one of the things that I'm grasping from the book, just reading like the first 20-30 pages, is that art in expressing yourself artistically or working with your imagination for an artistic means can be really helpful in getting your body, getting your mind, getting your spirit to a safe place to then maybe interpret or think about maybe the story behind traumatic experiences. I should say expressive arts therapy, trauma-informed expressive arts therapy is the book. So really utilizing art to be able to get to that space where you can then properly verbalize or express the complexities of trauma that your body is experiencing and all of the ways that it's taking it in. So that applies to this book because Jade is at this art farm. It is a summer program that, coincidentally enough, her friend Phoebe encouraged her to apply for, so that she could get in, so that she could build her skills, yada yada yada. Phoebe suggested that she do this, and right before I think Phoebe or Jade leaves, or she gets there, I think right before she gets there, she finds out that Phoebe has attempted to commit suicide. And Phoebe is not talking to her. She is, I think in the book, she's on suicide watch, so she's institutionalized, I think is how they put it. Don't quote me on that though. But, she's in an institution receiving treatment for the attempt and on suicide watch. And so she's not really in contact with Jade all too much. My leg is hurting, I'm sorry. But she's not in contact with Jade too much. And that's worrying Jade. This is her best friend. She's, she was thinking that she's going to be at this art camp and she's going to be able to write her friend letters back and forth. And, she's worried about her friend, but she's also really still worried about doing the things that she loves, right? Where she does pottery, which I'm like, I think that's also why I grabbed the book, because I was like, I love pottery and I wish that I can get into it more, and just the idea of molding something, putting that glaze on it, and then putting it in a kiln and it coming out a completely different color. If you watch any pottery videos, it is such an interesting process. So yes, I was like, oh, I gotta read this. And so yeah, she's worried about all of these things, and also trying to, because I think there's like a scholarship at the end of it or something like that, where they get to go to another school or they just get a bunch of money. I forget which one, but you know, there's a lot of pressure. She wants to do well. She's in there with other, not just people who do pottery. It's an art farm, so they do all kinds of different art. But she's worried about her art. She's worried about what she's going to create. She's being critiqued. She's being judged. I don't know why I use the same similar words, but she's being critiqued about her art by these teachers and these judges who obviously, well, within the story, want to push her and want to see her do well and want to see her art be a connection or an expansion of her. Whereas Jade is having a hard time doing that because her worry is about her best friend, and she doesn't really want to bring that and put that into the things that she's creating, because it's confusing for her, because you know, she really doesn't want to lose it, and she's already feeling alone, and she doesn't know everyone, and all of these things, right? So throughout the book, Jade is creating, and incidentally, like, you know, emotions too, especially emotions around things that come up from people that we love and care about and we value, from situations that really do worry us because it involves people that we value. All of that stuff starts to slip out into her hands, into what she creates, and she tends to zone out during these times and creates these creations that once they go into the kiln and that they come out alive, and they start wreaking havoc all over it, just kind of like the insert says, right? They start wreaking havoc on everything. Excuse me, I just had some champagne a little bit ago, so, but I'm not drunk, but the burps are coming up. But yeah, it's wreaking havoc. She's trying to chase it down. She still needs these project pieces to be judged. So like, she's like, this is not good. And coincidentally also, these are probably the pieces that the judges, as they like look, because they're judges but they're teachers, right? So they're looking as she's doing it, they're like, these are great, wonderful pieces, like, please tell us more, please give us the backstory. So she's having a hard time even naming the backstory, because she doesn't even realize that, you know, that the worry from her friend attempting suicide is what's being channeled into these art pieces that are coming alive, because she's doing them out of frustration and she's kind of zoning out doing them. So she doesn't even realize it, and then she has to go chase it because it's running off somewhere into the forest or something like that. And so yeah, she's just really having to confront these very difficult feelings of her friends. And then I think at some point in the story, she gets a letter from her friend, and it's a very short letter, which when I saw that, I but I felt for Jade in that moment. Like, you're worried, and then you get this letter and it has like 5 words on it after you done wrote, like, I hope you're okay, all of these things. And so it frustrates her, and again, she goes to the clay and starts creating things, and it's coming from the memories that she's had with Phoebe, as well as just like her current feelings around everything now. I think it says in the insert too, she's falling in love with someone, so it's just like all of these complicated feelings are happening, and she's really just trying to keep up, not even just try to do her best, but she's trying to keep up with everything, and also still do her best. So yeah, I just kind of like that this book explores how, again, like, art can be a space where therapy or reparation can happen in very complex, traumatic situations that arise for us. And Jade's own way of doing that, and how that art has seemed to come to life and has a life of its own, outside of like just Jade's conscious desire to create something. So I think maybe that's all I'll say about it. And at the end, that's what I wanted to say. And at the end, she ends up creating something that kind of, as she begins to kind of like understand that these things are connected. That's what it is. As she begins to understand that these things are connected, by the end of the story, she's able to create something that honors where she is in her feelings, and also honors where Phoebe, her best friend, may be in her feelings, because I think within the story, she's connecting the dots, because she's like, how could my friend do this? Like, she didn't tell me, like, we're best friends, and she did not tell me that these were things, that there was anything bothering her, let alone that this is something that she was thinking about doing. But as these creations are coming to life, she's starting to kind of like piece together where these things were coming from for her best friend. So yeah, by the end of the story, she's able to create something that honors herself and also honors her friend and her friend's struggles, and kind of creates like this really very nice guardian of a creation for both her and her friend, that I think ends off lovingly to to go visit the friend. As it comes to life, it goes to visit the friend in the hospital or in the institution at which she's staying, and it kind of just is like a little nice, like, the things aren't over, right? Like, the healing isn't full and or complete, or we're done, we're good, we're past that point, but it is at a point where it's like Jade has reckoned with, in some way or fashion, the situation, and yeah, there's just more story to that, right? Like, there's a world of things that could happen beyond that point, but as far as the story itself goes, it ends with just like this kind of, let me see, right, let me show, actually I'll show, because it's a little bit easier to show, right? The creation that Jade has made is visiting her friend Phoebe in her bedroom. I actually think she's in right now, I'm not sure. But yeah, she goes to visit just to kind of, give that I'm still thinking of you, I'm still holding you, I'm still caring about you, and I'm also willing to give you, that's kind of what I meant by reckoning, I'm still willing to give you the space that you need, or to give you the time or whatever it is that you need to repair, or to be repaired, or to heal, or to do whatever it is that, again, can happen from this point moving forward. So yeah, that's Slip. My favorite way of judging these is to say whether or not I would have this on my shelf, and yeah, I would. I think that it could be a good story in addition to a lot of other conversations, again, around like trauma-informed expressive arts therapy, or just art therapy in general. And not even from like that kind of perspective, but just really, how we can work with art in order to help us move through whatever it is that we're moving through, and the importance of art in doing that. So, but that, I feel like I'm kind of getting into that other book. So I would have this book on my shelf to kind of talk about that too. Also, to talk about the fact that when we kind of are aware of things like this, I think that what Jade is maybe 13 in the story. She's very young, 13, 14. And so, really just talking about youth suicide rates and youth suicide, and just really, that's already a very complex conversation to be part of and to contribute to and to listen to. It's already very difficult. So it would be, I think that this could definitely be a book to kind of like lean into or refer to or to read with others when talking about suicide, youth suicide. Okay, and that's not a very, very fleshed out, thought out opinion, unfortunately, because this is not a conversation that I'm often leading part of, facilitating, contributing to, but it is something that, as for me, is very, how can I say this? I just think that, yeah, just having something, not something, but, being able to lean into something to be able to better create a fertile, nurturing, safe ground to talk about such a complex situation is almost always helpful in my brain. Okay? So Slip, once again by Marika, McCoola, and Aatmaja, Pandya. Okay? Alright, my next and last book. I'm so excited to talk about this one. Maybe I shouldn't have started with the other one. Even though I really did enjoy that other one. Oh, did I say what happened on my shelf? Yes, okay. Excuse me, even though I would have that on my shelf. This book, I'll just show it. I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jennette, McCurdy. This is a new book. It came out in 2022. I have to say that now because it's 2023 now. But yeah, it came out then. Let me make sure. I am correct. Yes, 2022. This book came out. It's by Jennette, McCurdy. I just love this cover. I think this is like a cheeky, cool cover. I kind of didn't show. Let me quick go back. Slip isn't that long. Slip is about, I always forget to say how many pages. Well, it doesn't tell you. But it's not that, for me, and it's a graphic novel, it's really not that long. I think it took me like a day to read it. Like a few, maybe an hour or two. But yeah, Jennette McCurdy's book is 300 pages long. I wouldn't consider that a long book because I can clear out a 300-page book in about a day or two. Indeed. I did clear this out in 2 days. Sorry. I did clear this out in 2 days. So, yeah. Not a long book for me, but it is 300 pages. I will say that. 300 pages is like, child, you got me at 10. Wherever your threshold is, stick to it. But for me, it's not that long. But yeah, this book was actually, I saw clips and things when Jennette McCurdy was doing interviews around this book earlier last year, maybe. I don't remember when. I don't know time, y'all. That's just me. But I was seeing her do like some conversations around this book. So, and I was just like, oh, that's pretty interesting title. And I did have, like, when I saw the interviews, I was like, oh, I do want to read these. Like, I do want to read that. I'll have to get it when it comes out. Because I didn't think it wasn't released yet. Or it was just about to be released. But then I kind of forgot about it. I was doing some other things. And then I went to, like, one of my, like, collectives. And someone had talked about reading this book, and they were just like, I don't even read. I cannot read books at all. But they listened to the audio version of this book, and so, yeah, and they were like, it was just so good that, like, they finished it. They never really finished books, but they finished this book. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna get this book. It was really, they were talking about how really well worded it was. And I am somebody like that. Like, if you kind of tell me that a book is good and I've already heard about a book, or I have an interest in reading a certain kind of book, I will go grab it. Absolutely. So I went to go grab it. I put it on hold, and lo and behold, I got this book. I think I started it one night, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna come back to it. And because I wasn't really feeling like reading a big thick text. And then the next time I came back to it, I read it. Like, I kind of just kept reading, and I think I was like on page, I remember, I was like on page 110 when I got done. I was like, oh, I said I was going to read for 30 minutes, and then I was there until 110 pages, and then the next day I was like, okay, I'm just going to read 100 pages, and then I ended up finishing the book. So, 303 pages I finished in 2 days. But yes, this book, if you are not familiar with Jennette McCurdy, and maybe you're like, I've seen this person before, but I do not know where. She used to play on the Nickelodeon show, one of the main characters of iCarly as Sam Puckett, Samantha Puckett. And then they got a spinoff show with there was a spinoff show with Ariana Grande called Sam and Cat. So, and Ariana Grande was from Victorious, and they had moved in together. So, Jennette McCurdy played both of those characters. It was the same character. Jennette McCurdy played Samantha Puckett on both shows. So, yeah, that's where she's from. I kind of grew up watching that. My sister watched it all the time, so by proxy, I was also watching it. And yeah, I was just very familiar with the show when it got rebooted. I didn't watch the reboot, but before it got rebooted, I think it was on either Netflix or it was on some streaming platform that I had access to, and I was watching them like as background noises, because it was really like Jerry Trainer, a very fire person. Very fire person. So yeah, but just thinking, I'll get to all of that other stuff. But yeah, Jerry Trainer was great. But yeah, I used to watch it and have it on as background noise. But after reading this book, I cannot ethically watch those shows anymore. I cannot turn them on and feel and watch them in the same good faith, in the same ignorance that I had before I read this book. I know that right around this time, the time that this book was coming out, I was also seeing things on Twitter around I don't want to get the name wrong, but like, if you watch like this, Victorious, same, I'll put it, iCarly, Victorious, and another one, Dan Schneider. If you watch those shows, or if you see that name, I was seeing on Twitter how just inappropriate is the word that I will use, but it does not really grasp at the fact at what he was doing with these children, and just his relationship and the relationships that he was building with child actors. Cannot watch those shows in good faith anymore, knowing that the creator behind it was this kind of person. But that's not necessarily Jennette McCurdy's focus in this story, though she does talk about him too. And she talks about her mom and how her mom was the one who really wanted to act and really wanting to get into acting. But for all of the reasons detailed in the book, her mom never became the actress that she wanted to be, and instead put Jennette McCurdy through the ringer to do it for her. Pretty much forced her, gave her... I don't want to utilize words that Jennette McCurdy didn't use, because this is her experience and her... and I want her experience to be told through her words, because she did that. But yeah, her mom... Let's see. Yeah, let's just read the insert. Let's start from the beginning. Okay, a heartbreaking and hilarious memoir by iCarly and Sam and Cat star Jennette McCurdy about her struggles as a former child actor, including eating disorders, addiction, and a complicated relationship with her overbearing mother, and how she retook control of her life. Jennette McCurdy was 6 years old when she had her first acting audition. Her mother's dream was for her only daughter to become a star, and Jennette would do anything to make her mom happy. So she went along with what mom calls calorie restriction, eating little and weighing herself 5 times a day. She endured extensive at-home makeovers while mom chided, "Your eyelashes are invisible, okay? You think Dakota Fanning doesn't tint hers?" She was even showered by mom until age 16 and was also forced to share her diaries, email, and her entire income. I'm glad my mom died, Jennette recounts And I'm glad my mom died. Jennette recounts all of this in unflinching detail, just as she chronicles what happens when the dream finally comes true. Cast in a new Nickelodeon series called iCarly, she is thrust into fame. Though mom is ecstatic, emailing fan club moderators and getting on a first-name basis with the paparazzi, Jennette is riddled with anxiety, shame, and self-loathing, which manifests into eating disorders, addiction, and a series of unhealthy relationships. These issues only get worse when, soon after taking the lead in the iCarly spinoff Sam and Cat, alongside Ariana Grande, her mother dies of cancer. Finally, after discovering therapy and quitting acting, Jennette embarks on recovery and decides for the first time in her life what she really wants. Told with refreshing candor and dark humor, I'm Glad My Mom Died is an inspiring story of resilience, independence, and the joy of shampooing your own hair. I'm like, I don't even need to say anything else about the book. Because that's essentially what it details. And how it is detailed, I really enjoyed the way that Jennette McCurdy wrote this book. The person who was talking about the book in the collective that I was talking about said the same thing, that they really enjoyed that the way that the book was written and the way that just kind of how everything flowed. It wasn't there's just kind of a humor in the rhythm that Jennette is speaking through in the words and how they're written, that really just kind of makes this book, even though it's like a very, like I said, I cannot go back and watch the show after reading this book. I cannot ever, if I ever see Jennette McCurdy on the streets, I will never ever even refer to the series as to how I even know her, even though I'm pretty sure that would be something that's kind of assumed. But I would never ever refer to her as the names of the I would never refer to her as Sam. I would always refer to her as Jennette McCurdy, because not even the full name, but Jennette, just because she deserves that respect after all that she's endured to try to become this childhood actor that her mom wanted her to be. Yeah, and it was a lot. It was a lot to just really think about that she went through, and just like the pressure. It was like more than pressure. It was just like, again, she talks about an eating disorder. She talks about the eating disorder she developed through all of these things. And something that I just thought was really interesting, I don't know if interesting is the word that I should use, but something that I think I'm pondering on in my own life that kind of piqued an interest in considering more about is just really, again, like the ways that, like, parents can really take over and like really try to live or make their children do what it is that they wish that they could do with their lives for whatever reason, and under many different ways of doing that. And so just kind of like, what I was going to say about piquing my interest is that as she's explaining the story and as she's recalling all of these things, she's not recalling them, she is and also isn't recalling them in such a way, which I kind of expected with this book to be like, since the title is I'm Glad My Mom Died, to be like, and my mom was horrible, and she was over here, like, she kind of just spoke to what was happening. and just really like her voice at the time, right? Whether it was like, mom wanted me to do this, how could I not do it? I loved my mom so much, I care about her so much. And that was just something to kind of, it made me feel something. I don't really have words for it yet, but it made me feel something for it to be like, you know, you're kind of facing this very harmful situation. I'm calling it harmful. I don't know if Jennette McCurdy would call it harmful, or has called it. I think maybe she has, in some way or another. I don't think she used that word though. But yeah, like this very, very demeaning. Just like you're facing this and you're facing it from your own mom, and like you don't even realize how harshly, that's the word, harshly it's impacting you until later, until like you have distance from that situation, or you can finally be free from that situation. You just don't realize like how much it's really impacting your relationships, your relationship to food, or to your environment, your relationship to your career, to your body, like all of these things, and how like her mom's influence. And again, like it's how she talks about it in the book. It's like she doesn't even realize it's that bad. It's as harsh as it is until like later, right? Especially as she's talking about it as she's growing up, right? Because she started at age 6, and she's just, you know, like again, it's looking in retrospect, but she's not looking in retrospect and telling the story from her now self in a way that's like, you know, I guess the best example is of like, you know, I go back, or I talk about the story of how like somebody pushed me on the playground, and I'm just like, that person was mad, like they were rude as hell, like they was janky, they was annoying that day, whatever. Like I'm kind of saying it like with the clarity of being able to see what that was in that moment, rather than how Jennette McCurdy did it, where it was like, it was that, but it was also speaking at it from like, if I'm talking about the same situation, I'm like, I stood there and I got pushed on the playground, and I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what was happening. I just felt ashamed. So she's still talking about it from the perspective of whoever was present at the moment that it was happening, while also speaking about it from her perspective. I hope that makes sense. But I think that kind of just brought a different dynamic to the story. It brought a dynamic to the story that I really felt. I just felt, I don't know, for Jennette. I just felt for Jennette to not have realized it then, to be realizing it now, to be telling and retelling that story after recovery, or not after, but after years of recovery, right? And again, I think her mom died in like 2012, 2013. So it was, she had quite some time. I don't know if it's enough time, but she had quite some time from there to 2022 to be able to put this in a book. But yeah, I'm losing my train of thought, but I think it was just I felt for her. I just felt for kind of being in that space where it's like, when you realize that, you know, you really have been through some shit, and not only have you been through some shit, but it's it was your own parent, and having to take all of that in, because that can just be such a confusing thing, right? When it's your own parents and you're just like trying to see the best in them and trying to make sense of it all as a child, and you don't really understand. You're just trying to get your needs met, and also, you know, this is your parent. You just don't realize it, especially when it's kind of not as obvious to your brain. Like, you don't have information to even know that this is a harsh situation, or that there's something wrong or that something isn't right about what's going on. When you don't have that information, you don't have that, like, the knowledge of those feelings. Whether you feel those things is one thing, which in the book she does feel those things. But, like, you know, again, how she's telling the story, it's like, yeah, she's feeling this way, but it's like, also, she's also feeling just pressure to impress her mom. And her and her mom are close. They're best friends. They're, you know, so of course she wouldn't do anything to hurt me. But then it's like, but she's doing mad things to be hurtful and to be spiteful. Not even just to Jennette, but just in general. Just in general. Yeah, and to piece all of those things together later in life it's just that's the story that I can at least relate to. I can relate to just having to, like, look at things in retrospect and be like, why am I like this? What has happened that has gotten me here? And yeah, like I said, to connect that to your own parent. Man, this is I kept, as I was like preparing to do this, I was like, I do not want to say that this is a good book. I do not want to say that this is a good book. I will say that I will have this book on my shelf. I would probably have a few copies of it. I would give the copies away and be like, please, y'all. Because like I said, it also does talk about, it does mention at Dan Schneider, the creator, and just kind of very weird man, to put it, to say the least. I have to absolutely look into, like, what else has been said and just, like, compiled conversations around, you know, those who have worked under, those childhood actors who have worked under Dan Schneider. Definitely need to look into that. But maybe some YouTube videos or something. I know they're out there. Jennette is not the only one, I'm pretty sure. But just because childhood sexual abuse, friend, like, that's something else to look into. And, like, that's kind of like, dang, like, I'm not considering that. And it's like, right, because why would you consider that? Oh, like, that's a part of these Nickelodeon shows. But I think when they were showing clips and stuff, it was just like, oh, like, he was writing in very sexual scripts for these children to perform. And that is so shitty. So yeah, I cannot go back and watch any of those shows with the same kinds of, like, fun, frilly attitude that I used to watch them before. But yeah, just really feeling for Jennette, and just really just welcoming the fact that her story is being told. And I mean, I don't feel like I need to feel any kind of way about that, but I am just, I don't know if honored is the word. It's just holding space as some random reader on a part of the planet that maybe Jennette McCurdy has or has not been to, but just holding space in the fact that that is and was her experience. That's what she experienced throughout her life. To be able to be Sam Puckett on iCarly, to be able to be Sam Puckett on Sam and Cat. Yeah, I kind of want to see if there's any other elements, but like I said, the insert kind of explains it all. She talks about addiction, unhealthy relationships that has spurred from that. Even just how her mom dealt with her cancer, and just like how that still did not really stop her mom. In fact, it was kind of a thing that her mom utilized and leaned on a lot to be able to get Jennette into certain shows, or to try to, you know what I'm saying, empathize with the casting agencies, yada yada yada, to be able to get young Jennette onto a role, and just like really all aside at the expense of what Jennette wanted for herself. Wasn't even asked, wasn't even included in those things. And And the few times that she tried to kind of push back against that, her mom just really kind of, gaslit, did those kinds of things. And so it just wasn't, like I said, I wouldn't call this a good book, like a good read. Like, it just makes you feel good. No. It did not. I was thinking about this too as I was preparing for this. I was just like, these kinds of books, another one that came up, and this is because I saw it on Twitter, right? When I started reading this book, a child called it. I don't know if anybody else had to read that book. A child called it, right? These kinds of books tend to kind of like keep me up at night. Like, and it's funny because I can watch ghost stuff all day, and I'll be like, I'll go to bed, I'll be like, it's fine. I can watch horror stuff all day and be fine. But these kinds of books are the kinds of books that like kind of leave an ache in my spirit, and like an ache and a sadness, and I'll be sad for days. And I let myself be sad. I'd be like, I'm so sad about that. I'm so sad that she experienced what she experienced. I'm so sad that, none other adults around her or in her situation or part of it or whatever, except her grandpa. I think her grandpa tried to kind of like speak to maybe what Jennette was. Yeah, like they were trying to be considerate of her at the time, but at the same time, didn't do much, couldn't do much, whatever the case may have been. But yeah, no, it just left an ache and a sadness in my spirit for her, for the situation. I don't know where she is in her journey of recovering and healing and just like, so I won't say that with such a weight as if I need to feel bad for her, but it's just kind of like, I really do, I do just feel sad that this was her experience and that this was her childhood experience, and just feel so unfair. I even feel emotional talking about it now. I'm just like, oh my gosh, really wouldn't wish that on anybody. I really wouldn't wish that on any person. So back again, would I have this book on my shelf? Absolutely. But for the purposes of, I think that also coincidentally enough, I was a part of, well, y'all don't know this, I should just say this, right? That like I've worked with children since I was young, and also I really always am thinking about children's rights. I don't know why I couldn't say that. Children's rights. And like, the things that, how marginalized children are. I'll just say it like that, right? Which is also why I'm reading that expressive arts therapy book. I meant to get a play therapy book, but child. But yeah, and so just thinking of it from that perspective, or with that in mind, right? Like, it's just like, I'm thinking about all of the ways that children are kind of at will, right, to the adults in their lives, and how the adults in our lives, how we have this image around what children are, what children can do, how we should parent them, or like whatever. I'm always kind of thinking about those things. It's I wouldn't say a lot of where my work aligns, but that is a major part of my earth work, right? And so, yeah, thinking about that for Jennette McCurdy, and just like, I would have it on my shelf for those reasons, to kind of just talk about those, to, again, create room to talk about the possibilities, the possible dangers that, and harshness and trauma that children can face from the adults that they are at will to, from their societies, and all of that, and how, we can set up possible structures, or we can possibly set up structures and different ways of being and all of the things to be able to prevent all of those harms and dangers from happening. Because I'm gonna say God willing, because that's the word that's coming to my mind, but seriously, God willing, these children grow up, and depending on how they were able to mitigate and move through those situations, they will have to confront, carry, heal, all of the things in their non-childhood lives. And it can just, it's a heavy read. I'm not gonna lie to you, it's a heavy read. But I would say that it's kind of like, when books are heavy like this, I'm always like, read these in community, read these with someone, read these and talk about it, read these and be impacted by them, and seek to do things differently, or seek to address some things within yourself or within the world around you, so that books like these can no longer exist or minimize greatly in their existence. But I would say no longer exist, because that is the world that I would be dreaming of. And I don't want to think that what is happening here, and all of the variances, the variety of what can happen, is inevitable. Don't want to think like that. So I'm going to say no longer exists. But I would definitely give this book a read. And if you so happen to get through it and you're like, I definitely need to talk about this book with somebody, please do. Please do. Please reach out at eye-kuh@gmail.com. I would say email me. Do not text me, because I'm not going to be good with text messages in 2023 either. But definitely talk with me about it. I'll be looking at other reviews and stuff people said, and commenting on their child, because this book leaves an ache in my heart for Jennette. But also I just honor her story and her ability to move on and recover in the ways that are best for her. And if that means no more iCarly for her or me, you got it, Jennette McCurdy. You ain't got to worry about it. You ain't got to worry about it. It does talk about, if you were an iCarly fan, it does talk a bit about Miranda and her relationship to Miranda Cosgrove, which seems to be very stable and set, and good at the very least. It's not any bad blood between them, so don't be getting into it to kind of find some juicy drama around that, because there isn't any. It really is centered around just her mother's impact and influence over her life and over her acting career, and now the lack of it. So I think that's all I really have this time. I don't want to talk about any other books. I have another one, but I'll probably either not do it or come back to it another time. But this has been fun. Again, if you have read either Slip, or if you if you have or are willing to read Slip and or I'm Glad My Mom Died, please, and then you have some insights and share, you want to do your own little thing on BB Reads, please reach out. If you just want to share and talk about it with me, that's okay too. Definitely do so in the comments, and or email me about it, and I would love to talk about it, because I love talking about what I read. And until then, next time, my friends, BB Reads, eye-kuh out.